Hello everyone, welcome again to another video. In this case, we are going to consider the Victorinox Mini Champ. For this, we will be taking a look to the technical specs, to the functions of each tool, as well to consider some design flaws that we can find. For sure, we have to check the price and then we have to arrive to a conclusion. So please stay with me and enjoy this video. Let's begin then with the technical specs. For this, we have to take it out of the box. We have some literature. We don't need that right now. We have the tool and also the toothpick. So let's begin then with the length. We have a length of around 5.7 centimeters and a width, let me show you here, of 1.8 centimeters. Regarding the weight, I have a scale over here so we can use it, and we have 46 grams. So in the hand, it feels quite hefty. It is a nice feeling of quality, and therefore we're going to check every tool for this with practical example. The first tool you will find from the top right are the scissors. So let's measure then how big they are. We have a total length of around 4 centimeters and the edge is around 1.5 centimeters. These scissors are really sharp, and you can find, for example, in everyday life when you have a thread that you need to cut from your clothes, no problem. When you have paper, very sharp. And also, even for cardboard, I have here, you can see a relatively thin cardboard, but it represents no problem. Let me show you. I have to do a bit more force, but you can see I have many sharp cuts. This one is thicker. Maybe from this perspective you can see better. And it also cuts it without a problem. Of course, I have to do a bit more force, but you can see again a very sharp cut. Let's try then with this zip tie, which I consider it is a bit extreme because this is around 1 millimeter thick. There you can see more or less. So let's try it out. Let me grab it like this. And it tries to get away, but after a lot of force, you can see that we have also a clean cut. It's not a controlled cut, but you can manage it. I would suggest to cut zip ties because you can damage the scissors, but you can do it nevertheless. These scissors, or this tool, actually I've been using it for around 1 year, so you can see it is still very sharp. Also, to have as a comparison, I have here the Champ scissors. So this is the Mini Champ, this is the Champ, and this is the Spirit. So it's a Swiss tool, and let me show you side to side with the Swiss tool. They are almost the same size when you compare it from the cutting part. And here with the Swiss Champ, you can see that it is a lot bigger. So this is a lot different. And let me show you how you can cut also with this one. Is effortless or with less effort than this one, but you can see that this is also capable. And with the Spirit also, let me try. I have to do more force with this one than with this one, but they are not so different, this from this, regarding the force that I have to do to cut the zip tie. So very good scissors, and let's move on to the next tool. The next tool you will find is the screwdriver. So let's measure then how big it is. We have a measurement of around 3.8 centimeters, and this head doesn't have a square shape from the top view, but it's rather rectangular. And the measurements from this point of view, we have 2.1 5 more or less, almost 3 millimeters, and from this point of view we have actually 2 millimeters. So it is an interesting design because it can fit many type of screws or many sizes of screws. We have here a Phillips from a watch. You can see how small it is, and nevertheless this design works really well. Let me demonstrate. So you can see no problems at all. Here we have a calculator, also with really small screws, and then again I can screw and unscrew without any slip. It also works for bigger screws. I have here from a soldering station, and this screws is around 5 millimeters. And let me show you. Also not a problem. The shape also helps to use it as a normal screwdriver, so that's very helpful as well. Another tool that you will see here is a hole that is a wire bender, and it has a size, again, let's see, of around 2 millimeters, perhaps 1.5 if you want to use to bend wire. I have here a very thin one. It doesn't represent the proper use, but just to show you, I can also bend it with my fingers. But the way that they use this tool, you put it like that, and then you just bend the wire. Very useful for thicker wires. And as you can see here at the bottom, you also have a can opener, a bottle opener here. Let me just find it a way to do this. Here it grabs really tight, and it is very useful as well for everyday life. So one of the tools that I used the most. And finally we arrive to the knife. So it has a size of around 3 or 4 centimeters more or less, and the edge begins here, and it has 3.4, 3.3 centimeters in length. This is a very sharp knife. I hope you can see the profile. It is thin as well. Let me try perhaps to measure the thickness. It's around 1 millimeter here at the thickest part, and it is really sharp. Here, for example, I have a paper, the typical test. Okay, not so sharp there, but then depends on the angle, of course. So it is relatively sharp. I've been using this for a year and I never sharpened this edge. So then you can tell. I also have here some cardboard, again this thin version, no problem. And then this thicker one that we were using before. Let me see if I can manage it. Yeah, get the job done, and you can see it is a very clean cut. Let me come back again to the paper to see if we can cut the same way. Yeah, it's a bit duller now, but still manages to. If the job is to cut the paper, then no problem at all. So this is really interesting. I can try to see what it does to the zip tie. Of course, if I try to bend it and cut it like that, I managed it. I'm surprised, but yeah, you see how much force I had to do. I shook everything, but we have anyways a very not clean cut. It's not fair to say that. So let's try again the paper to see the damage. We still can do many sharp cuts, as you can see. Let's try this cardboard again. So yeah, it can take a lot of abuse. Of course, it is not recommended for you to cut zip ties every day or cardboard, but I mean, it's a tool for everyday life, and you can see that it does the job. When you need it, it does the job. And I think that's the most important thing about this tool. The next tool, it's a bit underrated in my opinion, because it is a cuticle remover kind of thing here. So you know, you have your fingernails and you should do it like this more or less, but I found better uses for it. So let me show you first the dimensions. We have again around, this is a bit shorter, 3.3 centimeters and a width of 6 more or less millimeters. So this is useful also as a flat screwdriver, even though, let me show you the shape from the front. It's a bit like a spoon. It's a bit bent, to say like this, with this shape, and it is very useful as a flat screwdriver, so a thick one, but also I found it's an excellent prying tool. You can see it's relatively thin here on the front. And for example, when you have to open packages that are a bit tight, or you have to pry something, then you can push a bit. For example, you have this small opening there, and then you just twist, and you can see how easy it is to get and to open. Another thing is, it depends your imagination, of course, but when you have a nut and you are eating outside with friends or whatever, and then you want to open like this, and then you damage here your hands, then you can pull out your Victorinox Swiss mini champ, enter in this zone there, just like this, with a bit of force. Let me see through the camera, it's always a bit tricky. Just like that, it was not a big problem. And then you just, let me show you, twist. And then without a complication, you can open this, and even you can use this to take the nut from the inside. So very useful. And as with every tool, I guess, from this Victorinox, you just have to use your imagination, and can be very nice to use in everyday life. The next tool that we're going to check is the ruler, but you can see that makes no sense to measure it, but we can compare maybe with the centimeters here to the top. It is a very precise match, and I trust this one, the Victorinox, more than I trust this plastic rule. But you can see that it is very, very precise there. And yes, you have here around 3.5 millimeters, and you can tell that very useful thing is that this end here is already the 0. So when you measure, you can see the 0 of the rule is already this part. So when you're measuring something, the depth or something, then you can put it like this, and you know already that you're measuring properly, in exchange of this one, where you have this piece of plastic here that it is useless, because when you want to measure something like that, you can't, or you have to overlap to start measuring like that. Instead of this one, you just can measure directly from the edge like that. So that's really useful for everyday life when you cannot afford more space to enter into somewhere. You can see it's also thin. This we can measure. It's around 6 millimeters in the width, so it is not so intrusive when you want to measure stuff. And at the top we have a flat screwdriver. Let me show you how big it is. It's 2.5 millimeters, and the thickness is around 1 millimeter as well. So this screwdriver, it's a bit too big if you have glasses, let's say like this one's here. This is small screws, but they are also very thin. So the thickness here, it is too thick for these screws. So you cannot use it for that, but you can find many other uses for this screwdriver over here. So let's continue then with the next tool, but we're going to check later that we can also mod this tool to fit these screws. If we could give a cool factor to these tools, this for me would be the one that would take the most points. This is the hook, and it's kind of confusing the way it looks because it's hard to understand how you can implement this, but Victorinox suggests it is an orange peeler. So let's try this now. Just glide it like that, actually. Let me see here from the other point of view. And then you can just peel it and you can see how great it is. This is great when you have short fingernails and you have to dig there. You cannot do that, but with this, you can do it without an issue. And you have also a very clean cut. It's really sharp, really, really sharp. Let me show you the measurements as well. As we were doing before, we have 3.7 centimeters, and this hook has 3 millimeters, like this. And you can see the edge is all the way on the bottom from that part. So this part is the edge. It's really sharp also here. So let me point that in a better way for you to see. So the edge you can find here and here. Very sharp tool. I have some cardboard. I'm going directly with the thick one because there is no problem at all. It's just perfect to open packages as well. Here I jumped a bit. As you can see, it's perfect. It's just unbelievable how you can feel how it sticks to the card. It's very, very nice. And here I even have a bottle, plastic bottle, of course. It's a relatively thick one, so let's see if I can manage it. Again, the hook, and then I can cut it just like that. Then you can see, no problem at all. Very sharp, very interesting tool. One thing I like about the Mini Champ is how many options you have in this small device. Here we have a second blade. Yes, a second blade in this small Victorinox. And here we can see it has a size of around 2.8, 2.9 centimeters. This one from the top had around 3.4 centimeters. So it's smaller, but it is also thinner. And the shape is also different. You have a flat side on the new one on the top, as you can see, perhaps there. And yes, it is also sharper. And the way that I use this, I like to keep this small blade that I'm showing you now as an emergency blade. That means, let's say you are doing some trekking, you're walking a bit, and then you have a little stone entering under your skin, or you have a small accident, and then you need to clean yourself. Then I would use this one here, as it is sharper and it is thinner, so it is easier to control. And that's why I like to keep this intact. So I don't use this for every day. I prefer to use this one, which is bigger and is more robust in comparison. And yeah, so you have these options to keep one intact and the other one for everyday use, as you please. Very useful characteristic of this tool. So yes, we are not done yet. We still have some tools to review. So let's continue then with the file. We have a length of around 3.8 centimeters, a width of around 5 millimeters. And yes, it is a very useful file. You can also use it for your fingers, as always. It works, gets the job done. But not only for that. Let's say you have some plastic that you want to make smoother. Just a demonstration here. So it works. And even if you want to push it a bit harder, you have some metal. I don't recommend you to do this, but I will try to smooth a bit this part. So yeah, more or less something like that. So this is pushing it. I wouldn't recommend it, but in case you need, as an emergency, you can use it to grind some metal, some plastic, etc. But what I like the most is this tool here at the tip. Originally, this is a pointy tip, but I managed to change that to make it a flat screwdriver. So a very thin one. And if you remember when I showed you the flat screwdriver from the ruler, it was not working for the glasses. And here we have the solution. So let me show you here as good as I can in the camera. I will not remove it completely, but you can see I managed to pull the screw over there. So very useful in this regard, and this makes it a very complete tool. Let me put it back again. And there we are. So no problem at all. And I recommend you, if you get this one, you can do this really easily. One thing that surprises me of how well it works is the pen. Yes, you also have a pen in this side. And let me show you how big it is. You have around 8 millimeters. But the way that you use it is you pull out the file from the other side, and then you just grab it like this. It is not the most comfortable position to write an essay, but you can write small annotations without a problem. And here a comparison with the rotring. So you can see maybe the ink quality here is also really good. And in comparison, let's say if you carry a big as an everyday use pen, yeah, with the big you can write like this, but when you try to write like that, let me put it, then at some point you will find that it doesn't write anymore, because yes, then you have to wait until the ink comes back down, and this can take some time. There we go. But with this one, it's pressurized, so that means that you can write in any position, and you should never have any problem whatsoever. So this is a very nice tool that you can see it doesn't let you down. And also what is very, very nice is that you can take this out, you can buy another one of these, put it back in, and then you are ready to go. Very nice tool. Some accessories that you can take inside your mini champ are a pair of tweezers and also a toothpick. But you can only put one because from the other side, if you remember, you have the pen. So regarding the size, they are around 4 centimeters. Let me see that. Yes, we have 3,7, 3,8 centimeters, and from the width we have here 3 millimeters. And these tweezers are really good. You can see here from the top how sharp they are, and there is no space in between. You can even pull small hairs. Let me try here. Hope the camera can focus now. It is incredible how precise they are. So you can see there how I managed to do this. So it is very useful also when you have some splinters and you need to grab them very careful, because when you fingertip it is too cumbersome. Then with this is perfect. And also the toothpick is really flexible. Perhaps with some wear the tip can be a bit bent, but it is not an issue. And also you can use this, for example, to clean small surfaces like this. Easy as that. And yeah, it's, of course, then you cannot put this in your mouth, but you decide if it is a tool to clean or to do things exterior, then you can implement it like that. This also can be very useful. If you were paying enough attention when I was using the scissors, you can see that the spring here is broken. This is how it should look like. And here you can see half is missing. And this is one of the design flaws of this tool, that I find the spring to be a bit weak. Here we have the one from the Swiss tool. The Spirit is another spring, another mechanism, but for this one I find to be a bit too weak. Luckily you can replace it. You can buy the spring alone, and the way you change it is just basically you just push the spring in this direction or in this direction, from left to right or right to left. It works in both directions, so you can change it. So it's not a huge deal, but it's a bit pity because when you're using it and it's broken, then it gets stuck, and yes, you have to open it manually again, and it can be a bit annoying. The other thing that I find a bit annoying is, okay, also with these scissors, when you have this ring on top to carry it and then you close it, you can see that it gets stuck there. So sometimes you have to do this and then it comes back to place. Small thing, but it is there. The other thing is that you can see here is a nice place to collect dust. And yes, you have to clean it from time to time, but yes, you cannot do much about it. So you have to be aware of this. Also, perhaps in between the tool, if you put it in your pocket, it will collect some dust. And another design flaw that I find is that this part is made of plastic, and the way that it works is pressed against this metal part on top and here at the bottom, so it's pressurized, so to say like this. So when this falls, and it happened to me to other one that I had, a big one like this, when it falls, then this metal with the plastic, of course the plastic breaks, and then you cannot press it back again, so you have to replace. Also, you can find this as a replacement. You can buy new caps, red caps for this, and then you can put it back in, so you can fix that, let's say. But nevertheless, it would be nice if this was metal, and then you can have a really robust tool. Another thing that I find really cool, for example, this is the bigger one. This is the Champ, and here you can see that you have a pin, and I find this pin also very useful. So maybe here we could find a way to insert a pin, maybe here on this part. Yeah, it would be really nice to have as an extra. Other than this, I don't find any other design flaws for this really nice tool. The price of this really nice tool, you can find it for many different prices, but for example now in Amazon is around 30 euros. So it is not that expensive for everything that you get inside. So what about the conclusion then of this mini Champ? As you can see, here is the big brother, the Champ, and the mini Champ. It is a huge difference in size, but regardless, I find that for everyday use, everything or most part of everything that you will need is already here. And this is something to take into consideration, because you can also have the option to go for the Swiss card that also had in the past, but you can find that the quality on this mini Champ, it's better or it's more robust, because it happened to me that the card from Victorinox is also the card from Victorinox. It broke, and then it is relatively useless, and most of the things are gimmicks in comparison to how useful you can find this one in comparison. So if you have to choose between the Swiss card and the mini Champ, I would totally go for the mini Champ. And in comparison to also the other versions of Victorinox that are also small like this, like the Classic, for example, I believe the price difference is not so big not to go for this one, and you are very limited with the Classic. So, and it is not so annoying when you carry it in your pocket. It is not that thick or that long that you would say, oh, okay, I cannot transport it easily. You have here was 1.8 more or less, 1.9 centimeters. So it is not different than carry a key, let's say, in the size. So I'll totally recommend you to get this one. If you want me to make a review of the Champ, please let me know, because we have here a lot of more tools, and the essence of this one I think is really captivated, because you can find many tools and can do many things with this one already. So I really hope that you like this video. Please don't forget to subscribe and give it a like. That would really help me. I will catch you again in the following videos.